Scratch the tinsel in Hollywood and you'll find the real tinsel underneath. That's very good.
I'm on a 3-year-long journey with David Hockney, and I get to scratch his tinsel as he nears the end of an already glittering career and searches for a grand finale.
I was brought up in Bradford and Hollywood. Hollywood was, of course, at the end of the street in the local cinema. And I must tell you this, I had noticed, my father was a great fan of Laurel and Hardy, well, so was I, so am I. And I noticed this, that even when they were selling Christmas trees in California, and Stan wore a big overcoat, what I did notice is the strong shadows they made on the ground. Well, you never got strong shadows in Bradford. Strong shadows means bright light. So strong shadows meant a lot of sun. So I thought, well, wherever that is, it's always sunny. I thought it was sexy. It was. I think all gay people like California a little bit. I do. Because it's sunny, people wear less clothes, you know, T-shirts. They tend to look after their bodies. You can overdo it with the body, but...
The world of boys and pools is in the past. He's been living in Los Angeles for 30 years, and by now there's much less to keep him there.
I was always going back and forth to England, and the last 10 years of my mother's life, I went 4 times a year for about 10 days and come straight back because of my dogs. I wouldn't have stayed away too long because of Stanley, you see. And Stanley lived, he was 15 and a half when he died. Just suddenly, actually. Elsa, my housekeeper, and I were in tears for 2 days. And yeah, my little pal for 15 years, you know, I love how I miss them. My 2 little pals, I mean, that house, I got them when friends were dying, and I felt you have to be domestic if you have dogs.
Much later, Hockney reveals that he'd reached a point of crisis in LA.
I felt quite alone, really. I just suddenly thought, I think I'll go back for a while. I don't feel, I'm feeling a bit very empty here.
David Hockney, as he approaches the age of 70, has come home to paint the East Yorkshire Wolds.
And a cobalt blue look.
After running on empty in California, he's gone back to his roots, to revitalize his art, to look for a fresh start.
I know I'm in the windiest spot, we'll work fast.
He's taken up painting as an extreme sport, outside, on the spot, in all weathers, something he's never done before. With his assistant Jean-Pierre, he's been working through the summer at the remarkable rate of almost a canvas a day.
I'm painting landscapes in Yorkshire because you can't photograph them. The camera can't get the beauty of this. It just can't get the space, the thrilling space I'm in. We've simply got to a point where we think the camera can photograph anything at all. Well, it can't really. No, it can't compete with painting at all.
There's another radical departure. Hockney wants to be filmed in the act of painting, something he's always resisted. But it had to be just me, no film crew.
Photography and painting, I wish to tackle it as I am here. That's why we're doing this as well. That's why we're making this film. Even though cameras get in the way, I don't want them there every day. But nevertheless, if you want to point out that the paintings are much more vivid about the place than photographs are, well, you've got to demonstrate that, actually. You've got to do something about it. It's not just saying it, you've actually got to do it. It's the limitations of photography that need to be looked at, absolutely looked at.
The camera has been a constant in Hockney's art for the last 40 years. First as an aid and reference point for his paintings. Later, he radically reinvents photography using photo collage and almost abandons painting altogether. Then, in 1999, there's a turning point. He steps inside the camera and devotes the next 3 years to looking at how painters in the past had used lenses and mirrors to make their art. He calls the resulting book and film Secret Knowledge.
I took it on knowing it would cost me quite a lot of money because I wouldn't be painting, but I had to do it for myself, actually.
He concludes that from as far back as the 1420s, Western art had embraced a view of the world that was photographic, and that when he returns to making his own art, he was not going to look through a camera again.
It was always that, looking at the world through a hole. In fact, Western perspective is that, a window. A window on the world means you're cut off from it. Where are you, then? It's okay for television to say we're a window on the world, but you're not connected with it. You want more than that, actually. You want to be in it. I don't look through the camera anymore.
It's taken Hockney 6 years to get back to oil painting. He's out in a freezing Yorkshire wind. He's trying to break free from his own photographic past, and he's at war with the whole direction of Western art. And looking for all the world like a Sunday painter, much to the interest of the locals.
Got a bit of decorating want doing in pub if you've got a minute or two. We've got a bit of decorating want doing in pub as well, Sally.
See how quick it changes.
He says he's returned to compete with the camera, but there are other, more personal reasons too.
The Yorkshire landscapes I did before that, before Secret Knowledge, were done in 1997 when Jonathan Silver was dying. And he'd always said, why not come and paint Yorkshire? So I did start.
His close friend, Jonathan Silver, was also from Bradford, and these were Hockney's first paintings of Yorkshire since art school. Jonathan had redeveloped a vast Yorkshire mill in which he'd created a Hockney museum.
As I saw him dying, I thought, well, I can't leave here. What would I do? I'd be on the phone all the time. And then thinking of coming back.
When Jonathan first became ill, Hockney made this to cheer him up. Now he was painting Yorkshire to do the same, and driving the wet canvases over to show him the progress.
I did it really more for Jonathan, because he was a very, very special person. I loved him. I mean, he was a highly intelligent person. Sledmere.
The pictures describe the daily journey to see his dying friend.
It was called The Road to York Through Sledmere, and it was about you really driving through it. It wasn't a fixed point. They were painted in the studios, those pictures, from using your memory and notes, little notes I'd take. But then I thought, well, maybe it would be good to get a vocabulary, meaning build it up from studies of really looking at trees or different things.
6 years after Jonathan's death, Hockney decides to strip his art down to the bare essentials. No camera, no big studio.
I would get Jean-Pierre to drive down a little road, and I'd say, stop. I got a little sketchbook, a Japanese one, like a concertina, and I would draw a certain kind of grass. I filled the book in about 2 hours with all these different kinds of grass. To most people, it looks like a jumble, because it is, but because you've done that, looked into the hedgerows, seen all the variety, then you draw it. When you've drawn it, when you then look again at the hedgerow, your seeing becomes clearer, and you understand what's going on more. And you realise there's a fabulous lot to look at. If you want to replenish a visual thing, you're going to have to go back to nature, because there's the infinite there. Meaning, you can't think it up, I don't think. Well, I'm a privileged person. I've always thought that. I mean, I'm very privileged in some ways. I get intense pleasure through the eyes, through looking at things, very intense. That's always been the case, and I became, you're aware of it when you're quite young, actually.
When Hockney starts to paint Yorkshire this time round, he uses watercolour, a medium quite new to him.
One of the important things for me was to go back to the hand, and I went back to a watercolour brush, meaning the hand was visible. And that was, of course, partly from the Chinese.
Ancient Chinese scrolls have long fascinated Hockney for their brushwork and the way they depict landscape.
You are going to make a journey. There is never a moment when you stop to look at something. And remember, the whole of Western art is based on, I'm in one place looking at this thing. If they'd used that at any point in there, it would mean you'd stopped moving, and in effect, you're not there. The European idea to look at the world, to fix it, you have to stay still, as it were. Remember, Our eyes never stay still. If your eyes are still, you're dead. Chinese call it the principle of moving focus, which, in a way, is a much more human way of looking at it, because we move the focus every time we move, or the eye moves. It's more about you being in it, and it ends there. When the Chinese said, you know, you need the three things for painting, the hand, the eye, and the heart, I must admit, I was very, very impressed with that. I thought, oh, how true. And two won't do, meaning, you know, you do need the three. Very, very good. I believe it.
The watercolours were done on the spot from inside his car. They describe a journey and read like postcards telling a story about his summer in the Yorkshire Wolds.
But I'm also painting my childhood. I used to work in the fields in East Yorkshire when I was a schoolboy. My Gregory's comment this year was very nice. He said, you were very happy up there working in the fields in Yorkshire. I said, I was actually, yes, I was.
For 2 years running, Hockney had taken summer holiday jobs in the East Yorkshire Wolds, working as a farm labourer.
Stooking corn is a monotonous job, but in a way it was the first time I was away from home. Well, not quite the first time, but a bit unsupervised. I was with a boy 1 year. You slept in big double beds, about 4 double beds in one room. I mean, these were all labourers. They were all in their 20s, I suppose, yeah. Yes, it was all very male. I cycled round and thought it was absolutely enchanting. They seem like little private places, which, I mean, I loved then, but I really love now.
After each day out painting, Hockney would watch a slideshow created by his assistant.
I told you, this began, it began with the watercolours. See the pictures being made. You don't consciously know exactly what you're doing. They're fascinating for me to watch. I don't know what they are for other people, of course. I'd have loved, for instance, if there was a film of Rembrandt, to have seen the order of marks, to have seen the speed of them. It would be fabulous.
But you're watching yourself.
Well, that's less interesting than watching Rembrandt, of course, yeah.
Do you think my filming...
Does it make a difference that you're there? Yes, it does, yeah, yeah. But I'm enough of a showman as well to know you've got to record some things, otherwise they won't be there. Time will pass and it will all be lost.
November. Hockney is drawing with the brush, taking the new freedom he's learnt from watercolour into oil paint.
Nature's got odd shapes, you know. I mean, I'm not putting them all in. I'm not putting that many in, but I mean, you've got to react to it.
He is going for the first take, which doesn't always work. He started the tree in the wrong place.
I want to get the whole thing. Give me about 20 minutes, half an hour.
He's beginning to look at home as a Yorkshire countryman. 50 years ago, he escaped provincial Bradford to broaden his horizons at art school down south in London.
They used to mock my accent. Trouble at mill, Mr. Almond Roy, stuff like that. And, well, I was just amused by it, frankly. I used to walk around and look at their drawings. And I used to think, well, if you could draw like that, if I were you, I'd keep quiet more. Assurance sat on him like the silk hat of a Bradford millionaire. The Wasteland, Elliot, yeah.
He's returned to provincial Bridlington, a sleepy seaside and retirement resort where his sister lives.
Isn't that Margaret down there with Ruby?
It was the seaside place for the poor, which was us.
How did your parents bring you all up?
Education was number one, very religious and moralistic. So there was always little sayings, you know, if you were if you weren't doing anything, you'd got to get busy, you know, put some elbow grease into it.
Look at that old couple down there wearing the seat out.
And stand up for what you think is right. That was my father, I think. Dare to be a Daniel. Dare to stand alone. Dare to have a purpose, truth, and dare to make it known. And that's what David does all the time.
He's in the house where his mother lived her last years, looked after by Margaret.
She was a very great power. She had a very great emotional power. That's a bit hard to describe. That pulled you in, and you always wanted to push back a bit, which I'm sure David must have felt as well. He painted her, he painted other pictures, he showed them to her, but I think she always wanted that bit more. There was always this pull, because David's also got powerful energy in a different way. They were probably just a bit, not too strong. I mean, he adored my mother. I mean, he thought the world of her, and he would always come and visit her, and she'd always couldn't wait to see him. But I don't think he could have painted what he's painting now and lived in the house the way he's living now, while my mother was there.
I always went at Christmas for the last 30 years. I couldn't miss a Christmas because I'm an unmarried son, and you go visit your mother. But I never stayed. I usually left quickly because it was cold and dark.
His mother died at the age of 99. When he moves into the house, he already had a studio that he'd built in the attic for the times when he'd come to visit. At first, the Hockney household consisted of Jean-Pierre, a French accordionist who was learning on the job.
We go by the moment.
The moment always overrides everything.
Overrides everything. He told you that, rule number one.
John, who cooks, housekeeps, and has been Hockney's companion for the last 16 years. And his sister Margaret, who decides to move out.
Once we'd taken over this house, the three of us working very, very well together. We were kind of living like quite rich bohemians here because the office was in LA. So nobody'd ring from the office till 6 o'clock in the evening. So we were never pestered that way either. Well, I thought this is terrific. This is the way you should be living. Look at the colour of the road. Beautiful.
Well, the
Delicate.
white is starting to stick on the top of the hedges.
Yeah. I'm keen to make a description of here a little bit. I mean, in all kinds of ways. And therefore, one of them surely is to get the variety of season here, which of course is a lot bigger than California.
January. He's staying in Yorkshire for the whole winter, for the first time in 50 years.
I'm a bit terrified of cold.
Do you want the other hat? The brown one.
Is this the coldest it's been?
It's cold, yeah. Very cold. It makes you work fast. But you also don't want to work sloppily because it's cold. How long was that?
What time is it now?
2:45.
2:45? It's 2 hours.
Yeah. Yeah, very good. Speed, it's not rush you're talking about. Yeah. If you get it right, you're then trusting your first instinct, which, remember, most people won't trust. I mean, fudge, move around. But I've realized often a lot of the good work I do is done very quickly.
Hockney is in Los Angeles. Back to the house he's left empty for a year. His past has caught up with him. A 50-year retrospective of his portraits is about to open. His recording of the seasons has been interrupted, and he's annoyed to be missing the hawthorn blossom back in Yorkshire.
David Hockney is an artist that needs no introduction. He's undoubtedly a legend in our world. So I think it's safe to say that he's our native adopted son.
Do you have a message or any insights that you want the viewers to get?
Well, not a specific message other than love life, I suppose.
Hockney is not one to dwell in the past. He's bringing Yorkshire with him to West Hollywood. In his vast warehouse studio, he can now, for the first time, see all the work of the last year together. It has been the most productive and sustained of his entire career.
Put it there. I can see what you should do first. So let's get going on that. And then you see the next step. Then you see a next step. But if you could see 4 steps ahead, you'd jump to that in a way. The summer is more about the land, isn't it?
Yeah.
The surface of the earth. This is all thrilling. You're still turned on. Keep it up. You're on a roll, really. They don't last forever.
It's also my chance to look back at our journey of the last year.
See, they're about to burst. See how many there are now on the branch.
Full.
Almost all of his landscapes he spotted from the car. Roads and tracks feature over and over. Together, the pictures read like frames from a road movie. The speed he's now painting in oils means he can make a snapshot in a few hours.
We keep driving past that place. Did you see it's now got money again? This place.
I drove past there.
Yeah. There's a 30-mile radius from here, which, frankly, I think of as my wonderful garden. Our job is just looking at this. And what a fantastic pleasure it is. We're in what we think is, wonderful nature. Beautiful.
Right. There's space in there.
Right now, but I mean, by the time you got the paints out, it wouldn't look like that.
Hockney chooses subjects that are unremarkable, views you'd hardly notice from the car.
It's stunning.
Fabulous.
Yeah.
What do you like about it?
I shall paint it. I like that. It's very, very beautiful, actually. I think.
Does it appeal to you, making something that is, on the face of it, unremarkable?
Well, of course. Of course I'm attracted to it. You mean, because it sounds the most ordinary, the most uninteresting thing you could do, practically. I know that. Well, of course that's attractive, therefore, if you then make something quite different out of it. Turned it 3 times. One reason I like it is in England I know it's hardly changed. On the other hand, it changes every day and every hour.
Certain places he's drawn back to again and again. A long, straight, tree-lined farm track he paints 7 times through the year.
If you look at the first painting I did of what I call the tunnel, which was done a year ago, August, and I saw it as a tunnel. But when I painted it practically a year later, it was a tunnel, but there was also an abundance there, and everything was straight up then. I must admit, I've learnt an enormous amount in the last year by looking at nature and trying to represent it.
Painting this one scene, the tunnel, over the changing seasons leads Hockney in a new direction.
I told Jean-Pierre to put 6 canvases up flank, which he did. Then I thought, look at that scale, think of that scale. I realized, my God, you can paint big, dynamic landscapes. Very good.
Hockney is making a series of paintings of this one spot, called Woldgate Woods. By using the same composition, he can complete 6 panels in a day or 2.
First winter one took about 3 weeks to do because I was drawing it the first time. Now I'd be able to do them much quicker, meaning go for special effect of that day. Got the fucking sun coming out.
By the autumn, he's painting times of day and the most fleeting effects of weather. He's been up since daybreak, painting the mist.
The sun, the moment the sun comes out, it lifts the mist, yeah. I watched it all just disappear in front of my eyes. It blew away.
He's by now working as much in the studio as outdoors. It's more about painting than what he's painting.
I think this is the 7th version. Well, you're moving through a year. You're moving time and space are not separate, are they? I used to think they were. It's always now. It's the now that's eternal, actually.
The next morning, he's back outside with the same set of canvases.
It's a beautiful light.
Because that's not what I'm painting right now. I'm still painting the mist. You paint with memory even when you're here. No such thing as objective thing. You're painting from memory of yesterday morning. We always see with memory. And seeing each person's memory is a bit different. We can't be looking at the same things, can we? We're all on our own.
The pictures are now about subjective experience. I see a scruffy woodland clearing. This is what he sees.
Does that seem like an empty wood to you?
Well, I definitely don't see any people in it.
Yes, but do you have a feeling that it's empty?
No.
No, I don't. No. Because it's about somebody looking at it.
But then, are there any landscapes that are empty?
Do we know what an empty room looks like? You do begin to see that we are just a tiny part of nature. Nature is a gigantic force that you become very, very aware of here. And it's in constant movement. A lot of things in nature live a lot longer than we do, and a lot of things live a lot less. I am quite aware of my own mortality. I mean, I don't know, how much longer will I live? 5 years, 10 years, I don't know. I don't really care. I'm not going to spend too much time pondering that. I've got too much to do. Yeah, why? Some people have more of the life force in them than others. And I think I've got quite a lot of it, because I've got quite a lot of energy still for my age. I am nearly 70, 70 years and 10, that's what they suggested in the Bible, isn't it? So everything else is a bit of a bonus. But I've always seen life as a rather big gift that I valued. Yeah, I see it that way. There might be another life afterwards, because this is such a mystery. I think so. I mean, okay, this is a mystery. Why can't there be another? Why would there be only one mystery?
The winter is almost over. It's the start of Hockney's 3rd year back in Yorkshire. He gets on the phone. I must come up straight away. He was onto something big.
Let me see, look. Watch this is.
He had requested and got the best wall at the Royal Academy's showpiece event, their summer show.
How big is it?
Now he's making an image to fit.
On a scale like this, no one knows what it's really going to be like, what a real effect it will have on you, but I think it'll be powerful. Because as I say, all we can see is 1/5 of it at a time.
Hockney is embarking on a remarkable technical feat. He can't see the actual painting as a whole, and he can't actually see the whole of what he's painting. He's so close up.
The view you've got must be way back there.
Yes, it is, yeah. Well, in your head you can go anywhere. Didn't you know that? Why, you can even go to the edge, very edge of the universe. In your head. You'll never get there on the bus or spaceship or whatever they think of.
The image is in his head, but also in drawings, which he keeps refining.
You see, it's all about looking up.
He's right up against his subject, and also up against a deadline.
Got seafood sandwiches. Cheese.
He's got 600 square feet to cover, 50 canvases, in the space of 2 weeks, before spring arrives and the leaves appear.
At night, I lie in bed looking at them. So it's always 24 hours a day painting. Unless I take a night off. Sometimes I do, for other reasons.
He's got there. The picture is on the move, all 50 pieces of it. Hockney was going to see it complete only when it goes up on public display at the Royal Academy. Now he wants to check it out beforehand. The Hockney crew has grown with the size of the picture.
Likes a challenge.
With fear of failure or without fear of failure?
I would say without fear of failure. Doesn't seem to be an issue.
Yeah. He seems to be a bit fearless, isn't it?
Yeah. A bit reckless.
He's hired an industrial unit in Bridlington and got carpenters to build a wall so he can experience the grand scale of it.
Do you think it's finished?
I think so. You sit in front of that tree. That tree is bigger than any of the others. It's wider. It's older. You can see it's older. And when you're looking at it, it makes all the other trees seem quite thin.
Is that tree you?
Well, it does suggest it can be lots of things, actually. The tree is the biggest plant we know, and it's also, in a way, the largest manifestation of the life force we see, isn't it? Especially the winter tree, because the winter tree is searching for light.
It's also the size of a sort of huge religious painting of an altarpiece or something.
It is, yeah. Even a crucifixion, I suppose, yeah. I pointed out, yeah.
When you talk about a crucifixion, is it a joke or sort of...
When you said altarpiece, I did point out there's that. So, no, no, it's not a joke. You think all my things are jokes, don't you?
No.
Most of them aren't.
I know you can joke.
Well, yes, you can. I mean, you can joke about anything, everything. It's funny. Practically everything. Practically, anyway.
The picture finally goes up at the Royal Academy, the heart of the British art establishment and the arena where artists going as far back as Turner and Constable have competed for public acclaim.
The painting for the Royal Academy is a real Royal Academy picture, the big one. When you go in the room to see it, you might say wow, but the other word would be how.
What's made this painting possible is the digital camera. Every time he worked on a canvas, it was photographed and the image was then inserted into a giant computerized jigsaw. This is Hockney's secret knowledge. But he's not allowing a lens to make this picture. The lens is just what allows him to see the whole picture as he paints it.
It's using high-tech with low-tech. The low-tech is my hand, but you need the high-tech. But the high-tech won't be visible. It can open up painting, I'm pointing out.
Here we go again. All right, raise the glasses. Cheers. Thanks.
While making the picture, Hockney had designed a flyer, part declaration, part maybe private joke.
Coming up at the Royal Academy, a bigger sensation. You know, they had a show called Sensation. A handmade oil painting. Recently done en plein air by D. Hockney, R.A. Painting from the motif for the new post-photographic age, which we're now in or entering. And someone has to make that statement, and I'm making it. Yeah.
Has Hockney created a bigger sensation? There was only one person to ask, one of the stars of the original Sensation show.
The biggest painting in the world or something. I love that. I'd have one on my wall. They work as individual little pictures. It makes it feel like a puzzle, which is nice. And you can see, so it's not this great big thing that you've struggled with. It sort of feels easy. And it's, and that way that everything's pixelated now as well. You've got the kind of pixelations. So I think they worked, and I think they evoke that nostalgia. Them wet days. Yeah, it's kind of sad, isn't it? There's something sad about it. You know, there's something sort of annoyingly dark about them as well, I think. There's a kind of emptiness, which the colour's trying to hide. There's a kind of mortality in the paintings.
God, it took me ages to get up this morning.
Are you thinking of your legacy at all?
Don't think too much of the morrow. Isn't that a biblical injunction? My mother would say, yeah. On the other hand, my mother said, well, perhaps you have to be a bit selfish to be an artist. So I wouldn't bother about my legacy, meaning somebody will look after it. Or if they don't think it's that interesting, they won't. And I won't care, actually. I'll be on to something bigger.
Sir Nicholas Sirota is here, Britain's most powerful art figure. Hockney's giving the picture and 2 full-size reproductions to the nation.
I'm really thrilled to see it. Well, I think what I'd like to do is take this and have these available, is to be able to show them occasionally like this, and occasionally singly.
Well, it's all up to you.
Yeah, I know, it'd be great, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it is.
Well, it was complete disbelief, really, because David had been talking for ages about the possibility of giving us a painting. And then suddenly it was the largest painting he's ever made. I don't think he would assume that big means great. I think he knows big means difficult. It's a Hollywood idea, isn't it, really? It's cinerama. I mean, it's basically to lose yourself in the landscape and to lose yourself in this space.
Back in Bridlington, there's clearing up to do.
That, I think, is an original.
Yes.
What's left over is a mass of drawings and reproductions, sometimes drawn on, sometimes then rephotographed and then worked on again.
So this is an original.
Yes, there's a lot of drawings.
For 6 years, Hockney had dismissed photography in favour of painting. Now it's back. And in his post-photographic age, it's hard to tell what's what.
I think this is just a photograph of that, I think.
Oh, this one.
Most of those photographs, I think, were taken on Wednesday, weren't they, actually?
There's a further twist. Hockney's now taking photographs of winter trees, and he's added them to a painting he's done on the computer to make a print.
Yeah, look at the difference. Look at it.
David, photography's back.
Pardon?
Photography's back.
Well, photography's here to stay.
Because you said, David, that you wouldn't touch a camera.
Well, you shouldn't believe, never believe what an artist says, only what they do. Walter Sickert. Yeah.
Hockney started painting in Yorkshire as an anti-photographic mission. Now he's onto something new.
Yes, I know about storytelling. Yes, it's how you introduce it, what you do first, and so on.
There's no neat ending. Hockney is still involved in a continuing dialogue with photography, and there are no fixed rules. He constructs narratives to keep himself going. It's all about his work, what works, what can be made to work, what gets him working, and what catches his eye.
I'm still too active in it to be reflective. I'm still too excited what I will do tomorrow when you've gone.
This is the end of my journey, but not his.
You don't retire doing this, you just do it till you fall over. It's an interesting life I have, yes it is. My mind is occupied. That's what you want at my age, you certainly want it, yeah? But I always wanted it. In fact, I'm greedy for it.
He's come home. His restless spirit has found solace and a sense of belonging here. And he stayed for the coming years at least.
Slower, slower. Well, I think Van Gogh said this, that he'd lost the faith of his father, but he'd found another in the infinity of nature. I think it's there if you get into it.